According to some, it's about protecting civilians.
And our resolve is clear. The people of Libya must be protected.
Others say it's about oil.
The only reason they're interested with Libya is about the oil. You think we'd be in Iraq if the major export there was broccoli?
But some are convinced intervention in Libya is all about currency, specifically Gaddafi's plan to introduce the gold dinar, a single African currency made from gold, a true sharing of the wealth.
It's one of these things that you have to plan almost in secret, because as soon as you say you're going to change over from the dollar to something else, you're going to be targeted. There were two conferences on this, one in '96 and another one in the year 2000, called the World Mataba Conference, organized by Gaddafi. And everybody was interested. I think most countries in Africa were keen.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold. The UK has double that, but 10 times the population.
If Gaddafi had an intent to try to reprice his oil or whatever else the country was selling in the global markets and accept something else as a currency, or maybe launch a gold dinar currency, any move such as that would certainly not be welcomed by the power elite today who are responsible for controlling the world's central banks. So yes, that would certainly be something that would cause his immediate dismissal and the need for other reasons to be brought forth for removing him from power.
It's happened before. In 2000, Saddam Hussein announced Iraqi oil would be traded in euros, not dollars. Sanctions and an invasion followed. Some say because the Americans were desperate to prevent OPEC from transferring oil trading in all its member countries to the euro. A gold dinar would have had serious consequences for the world financial system, but may also have empowered the people of Africa, something black activists say the US wants to avoid at all costs.
The United States should welcome the self-determination of Africans. They certainly have denied self-determination to Africans inside the United States, so we're not surprised by anything that the United States would do to hinder self-determination of Africans on the continent.
The UK's gold is kept here in a secure vault somewhere in the depths of the Bank of England. As in most developed countries, there's not enough to go around. But that's not the case in places like Libya and many of the Gulf states. A gold dinar would have given oil-rich African and Middle Eastern countries the power to turn around to their energy-hungry customers and say, sorry, the price has gone up and we want gold. Some say the US and its NATO allies literally couldn't afford to let that happen. Laura Emmett, RT, London.
Cars inbound. Continue tracking.
استدم إلى اليسار، إلى اليسار.
القائد حوزته ونحن في طريقنا إلى القصر. نعم سيدنا، بقية العائلة هنالك.
ولكنه كما كان النظام الملكي قبل الثورة، قام هو الآخر بالتواطؤ مع الغرب في سبيل تحقيق مكاسبه الشخصية.
استدم إلينا إن أنت تقاطع الطريق.
التواطؤ لا يأتي إلا بالعبودية، لن نكون عبيدا.
استدم إلى اليسار، إلى اليسار.
حان الوقت لإظهار قوتنا الحقيقية. إنهم يستهينون بعزيمتنا. دعونا نريهم أننا لا نهابهم. كشعب واحد سنحرر إخواننا من طغيان النفوذ الأجنبي. جيوشنا قوية وقضيتنا عادلة. بينما أتحدث معكم الآن تقترب جحافل جيوشنا من أهدافها لكي تحقق لنا النصر ونحرر أمتنا الأبية مرة أخرى. لقد بدأت حملتنا المقدسة.
سندمر بلاد كما يدمرون. هكذا ابتدأ.
Captain Price, al-Assad just executed President al-Falani on national television.
The Americans have plans for al-Assad, and it's too late to do anything for al-Falani. But in less than 3 hours, codename Nikolai will be executed in Russia.
Nikolai, sir?
Nikolai is our informant in the ultra-nationalist camp. He supplied the intel on the cargo ship operation.
The loyalists are expecting us half a click to the north. Move out.
Loyalists, eh? Are those the good Russians or the bad Russians?
Well, they won't shoot us on sight, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, well, that's good enough for me, sir.
The other side of the hill. The rockets have killed hundreds of civilians in the valley below.
Not so fast. Remember Beirut? You're with us.
I guess I owe you one.
Bloody right you do.
The Americans already attacked al-Assad.
No, their invasion begins in a few hours. Why?
The Americans are making mistake. They will never take al-Assad alive.
To be honest, the result of the vote by the British Parliament was completely unexpected to me. I think we're all used to seeing Western countries act in line with the wishes and the stance of their key partner, i.e. the United States, without any significant opposition. At least it seems to be that way. That's why this disruption has been unexpected. It really came as a big surprise to me. This shows that although Britain is the main geopolitical ally of the US in Europe and the world, there are people who are guided by national interests and common sense and value their sovereignty. Also, I think the vote's outcome is the result of the analysis of what's been happening over the last several years. I mean the tragic events in the Middle East and other countries. It's extremely challenging to reach the proclaimed goals, and here I refer to the campaigns in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya and other countries. We know what's happening in Egypt, so perhaps, and in fact, I'm quite sure that this is the case, that the people are analysing the developments, drawing conclusions and responding in a certain way. Now, coming back to the incident in Syria, we've seen earlier calls by the Syrian government for the international community to investigate their claims of the rebels' use of chemical weapons. Unfortunately, this has not been done. We have to rely on common sense, and here's what it tells us. Syria's government troops are on the offensive and have surrounded the opposition in several areas of the country. In these conditions, to play into the hands of those who are constantly calling for military intervention would be an incredibly ridiculous thing to do, especially on the eve of the UN mission's arrival. It defies any logic. That's why I'm convinced that it's nothing but a provocation on the part of those who want to drag other countries into the Syrian conflict, those who want to win support from the world's powerful players, first and foremost the US. I have no doubts about this. Our American colleagues and friends insist they have the evidence that the government troops did use weapons of mass destruction, in this case chemical weapons. Well, in this case they'd better present this evidence to the UN inspectors and to the Security Council. They claim they cannot show this evidence because it's secret, but this excuse doesn't hold water. There's a sign of disrespect towards your partners and other stakeholders. If you have the evidence, you should present it. If it's not presented, it means they don't have it. They say they've intercepted some communications, which don't prove anything, but fundamental decisions, like the decision to use force against a sovereign nation, can't be based on such evidence. First of all, I would address Obama not as my colleague, not as the US president, not as the head of state, but as a Nobel Peace Prize winner. We should recall what has been happening over the past decade. How many times did the US initiate military conflicts in various parts of the world? Has this ever helped to resolve even one problem? I've already mentioned Afghanistan, Iraq and Libya. There's no peace there, no democracy. None of these things our partners sought to bring there. They don't even have basic civil peace and some kind of balance. You have to consider this before you make a decision to launch airstrikes, which will certainly result in casualties, including civilians. Can't you think about that? Shouldn't you think about that? I strongly believe one should think about that. And addressing him as my colleague, I would tell him that soon we'll have a meeting in St. Petersburg. I hope the US president comes. We will certainly have a chance to discuss, among other things, the Syrian issue with our colleagues from around the world. Of course, the G20 is not a formal institution with legal authority. It is just a platform, not one that can replace the UN Security Council. The Security Council alone can sanction the use of force, but it is a good platform for discussing the issue, so why don't we use it? By the way, as regards the interests of the US, even Americans themselves, if you take a look at their media, at what their politicians and experts say, they have mixed opinions about the potential military intervention. Most analysts today tend to agree that the intervention in Iraq was a mistake. So if you admit that you have made a mistake in the past, what makes you think that you can't make a mistake today? All this should help us realize that such decisions can't be made in haste. Is the US really interested in undermining the international security system, the foundations of international law? Is it likely to improve America's reputation in the world? I doubt it. We urge them to think twice before making a decision, which clearly goes against the position of the international community and undermines the entire system of security.
Fellow citizens of the world, we are anonymous. Dear brothers and sisters, now is the time to open your eyes and expose the truth. A great lie has been spread all over the anonymous channel, Operation Syria. A tweet claiming false information on Assad has been spread like wildfire. The tweet said, Operation Syria video claims proof Assad unleashed chemical weapons. The Free Syrian Army, FSA, put out a video with no evidence whatsoever that Assad used chemical weapons against his people. The video appears to be a fake, false flag hoax. According to a source, Israel pays Israelis $2,000 per month to spread propaganda. The FSA put out a video where they murdered 2 rabbits with chemical gas in less than minutes. The rabbit's hair wasn't falling out, nor were any of the signs shown in the false propaganda video evident of the effects of the sarin nerve gas. In the video, only their faces were disfigured as though bad effects makeup had been applied, and there was no fear, panic or pain visible from any of the victims. They had what looked like glue or latex on their faces. Sarin is considered a weapon of mass destruction. Sarin or GB is a colorless, odorless liquid, used as a chemical weapon due to its extreme potency as a nerve agent. It has been classified as a deadly weapon of mass destruction by the United Nations according to Resolution 687. Production and stockpiling of sarin was outlawed by the Chemical Weapons Convention of 1993. Initial symptoms following exposure to sarin are a runny nose, tightness in the chest and constriction of the pupils. Soon after, the victim has difficulty breathing and experiences nausea and salivation. As the victim continues to lose control of bodily functions, the victim goes incontinence and begins to vomit, defecate and urinate. This phase is followed by uncontrollable twitching and jerking. Ultimately, the victim becomes comatose and suffocates in a series of convulsive spasms, and ultimately death. None of the victims in the video showed any of the signs of this horrific, silent and deadly biological weapon. There are plenty of YouTube videos showing what sarin can do to a living being, but for the sake of sensitive subjects they will not be shown in this anonymous message.
My enemy is terrorism, the instability in Syria. This is our enemy. It's not about people, it's not about persons. The whole issue is not about me staying or leaving. It's about the country being safe or not. So this is the enemy that we've been fighting as Syrians. President cannot do anything without institutions and without support of the people. So the fight now is not president's fight, it's Syrians' fight. Every Syrian is involved in defending his country now. But the problem between Syria and many countries, whether in the Arab world or regional or in the West, that we keep saying no when we think that we have to say no. That's the problem. And some countries, they believe that they can control Syria through orders or through money or petrodollars, and this is impossible in Syria.
Any information that the Western intelligence are financing rebel fighters here in Syria?
No, so far what we know that they are offering the knowledge support of the terrorists through Turkey, sometimes in Lebanon, mainly. But we have the other intelligence, not the Western, in the region. Some of them are very active, more active than the Western, under the supervision of the Western intelligence. If you have army that committed crime against its people, this is devoid of logic, because the Syrian army is made up of Syrian people. If you want to commit crime against your people, the army will divide, will disintegrate. So you cannot have strong army, unified army, while you're killing your people.
Do you think a foreign invasion is imminent?
I think the price of this invasion, if it's happened, is going too big, more than the whole world can afford. Because if you have problem in Syria, and we are this last stronghold of secularism and stability in the region, and coexistence, let's say, it will have a domino effect that will affect the world from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
Assad is not going to kill his people. Stop being drawn into sensationalized propaganda. Do not let these evil people get away with these lies. Innocent civilians will die from your complacency. Now is the time to make a stand. Please do your own research. Stop the lies. Stop the wars. The Syrian people need its current government if it is to survive the oncoming massacre. Terrorists are nothing more than hired thugs or mercenaries created to destabilize the Syrian government. Anonymous must stand up for all those who fall victim to these Western powers and its United States terrorist program. May the screams and blood of your victims haunt you evil sadists endlessly, until the end of your days. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
America has been victimized again. Evidence points to Islamic militants.
Mr. President, the people are losing faith in our ability to protect them.
And we're still certain Assad is behind all these attacks, right?
We were contacted 4 days ago by a man named Fayed. He offered to give us Assad's location for a list of demands, and one of them was Jack Bauer.
We're asking you to sacrifice yourself so we can eliminate Assad.
CTO is about to kill the wrong man. Assad isn't behind these attacks. He's come here to stop me.
2 Cobra attack helicopters will hit Assad's location in 15 minutes.
Fayed set you up. He provided CTU with the coordinates to this house. Move! Do you know what this is?
This is for a nuclear device.
Suitcase nukes. Small enough for one individual to carry in a crowded city. Many thousands would die instantly.
How many people died in this?
No less than 12,000.
4 more tactical nuclear weapons were stolen, along with the one that went off.
What happened? I made a mess. Dad's trying to clean it up. So the nukes that these terrorists are in possession of, including the one that was just detonated in Valencia, was stolen from you.
Yes.
I know what you're trying.
Today, we show the world our true strength. Perhaps it will give you some as well. Is everything ready? Do it.
Thousands of souls extinguished by the push of a button.
Understand, Yuri? This is only the beginning.
This wasn't war. It was madness.
Marines, we have a possible fix on al-Assad in the capital city. 1st Battalion is en route. Intel gathered by SAS indicates that al-Assad may have a Russian warhead. Speed is critical. NEST teams have been deployed to the area. Force recon and wild weasel groups have taken out most of the air defenses, but al-Assad's ground forces still pose a serious threat.
Looks like we're rolling in with everything we got. We get al-Assad, we end this war right here, right now. Lock and load, Marines. Approaching objective. 30 seconds.
Outlaw, this is Deadly. We'll take out the big targets. Mop up any troublemakers with the Mark 19.
All call signs, this is Overlook. We're seeing enemy armor in the Palm Grove west of the river. Hang on. Taking me back down. All U.S. forces be advised. We have a confirmed nuclear threat in the city. NEST teams are on site and attempting to disarm. I repeat, we have a confirmed Everyone, hang on!
has happened?
What appears to be an explosion of epic proportions.
Remain sketchy and unconfirmed.
To set off what appears to have been a nuclear explosion in his own country.
Something larger, and no word yet on whether al-Assad was among the victims, or may have been a suicidal mission.
Bravo, NB 062.